Alright, going to talk about follow through today. We had a little bit of discussion earlier, quite a long discussions on trigger control and trigger school. Teach you to get straight back on the rifle, having the finger at 90 degrees. What that's going to do is allow the bullet to travel without being influenced in either way. But no matter how well you build your hand position, no matter how good your 90 degrees is to the bore, all of that can be negated simply by not following through on the trigger. When we start to talk about what goes on whenever we fire this weapon, you got to understand, if you move your finger off that trigger the instant that it fires, you're moving the weapon system while the bullet's still in the bore. We'll talk about this a little bit further. During the act of actually firing the gun, what will happen is your brain will make a decision that you're going to shoot. When that happens, an electrical impulse is going to go from your brain down to the muscles in your trigger finger. These are going to start to move. When they start to move, it's going to compress the skin right there in the pad of your finger. Once that's compressed enough, the trigger will begin to move. Once the trigger begins to move, you have friction, metal on metal contact. That's why we got to make sure that it's coming straight back all the time. It's going to reach the point where it actually breaks on the hammer. The hammer is going to come forward, hit the firing pin. Firing pin is going to slam forward a prescribed distance until it runs into the primer. Primer, being a friction device, is going to fire flames through the primer at the flash hole into the cartridge case. Ignite the powder. Powder will begin a burn. It doesn't just explode all at once. It begins a burn. Pressure begins to build in here. Bullet unseats from the neck, moves forward a fraction of an inch, slams into the rifling, and goes from 0 to 2,700 feet per second in the space of 20 to 22 or 24 inches, however much it is. Also picking up 200,000 RPMs to the right. So all of that process takes time. So whenever you come back on the trigger, you need to bring the trigger to the rear, hold it to the rear. Let the recoil pulse finish before you reach up to grab and run the bolt. Remember, whenever you come back on the trigger, you don't want to crush it. You don't want to crush it and cause that trigger to go right or left, because that's when it's going to vibrate while the bullet's still in the bore. This is all part of follow through. If your finger is flying off of it, again, you're going to cause extra movement to the weapon system. Come back on the trigger in a very positive manner with good control. Let the recoil pulse finish, then run the bolt. We understand, once the rifle fires, you got to run the bolt. It's just an expensive paperweight otherwise. But we like to put it in this fashion. Don't sacrifice the shot you're currently taking for one in the future, which may or may not happen. And if your finger is flying off and your hand's flying off the gun, running the bolt to jack another round in there, I got it. You got to go fast. Don't go so fast that you're starting that process before the first process of firing that shot is done.